In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Exacompta Journey Notebook. I'll go over the specs, I will do a paper test, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this notebook coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps out my channel. Alright, let's get on with the review. This is the Exacompta Journey Notebook. This is the first Exacompta branded notebook I've ever used. Now, I've used Exacompta's, I think they're called like the FAF pad, something like that. It was made by like the guy that designed the Eiffel Tower in Paris. And then, of course, the Exacompta Bristol note cards, which is what I like to use for ink samples. So I like the brand. You know, it's related to Clairefontaine, Rhodia, G. Lalo. It's all part of that same family. And we get 90 GSM extra white Clairefontaine paper here. You get 192 pages. You get 5 signatures, which is really weird, I think. It's like, what is that, 38 and a half pages per signature. That's not, there's something kind of goofy there, but when we look at the signatures there are only 5, unless I'm going crazy, but I only see 5 there. So that's pretty weird. It's very cheap, $12, so the price is really affordable. So I, kind of can forgive that weird extra large signatures. The size of the notebook is a 6x9, so it's about an inch or so taller than an A5 and about a half an inch wider. This is a Mitsubishi bank paper notebook from the Papermind in a standard A5 size. So you can see it's a little bit bigger, but it's a good size. It's definitely in the range of notebooks that I like to use size-wise. You do get 8mm ruling. I don't know if they're all branded with these Inuit terms, but this one is called the Inuksuk. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I guess it means to act in the capacity of a human being. I don't know. Kind of neat. They're made in the USA. So you can see the design here. Let me remove this. This design is the Inuksuk design. I think there are maybe 4 or 5 different designs in this lineup. Now you do get a leather cover. It's a bonded leather. It does smell a little bit like leather. You know, it's not a fancy thing, but again, $12. What do you expect? But you have this kind of foil stamp here. I like it. I do like more of a plain notebook, but this design is nice. You do get an elastic here. It's not the highest quality elastic. I have a feeling that by the time I finish this notebook, if I end up finishing it, this is not going to be very useful anymore. It just doesn't feel like it's going to last. Nothing on the back here. In terms of the notebook with those 5 signatures, it's not the most comfortable. You know, it lays pretty flat. It just requires a little bit of extra work, and it doesn't lay as flat, as something that's got more signatures. Like this really doesn't take much of any effort to lay flat, and when you push on it, it stays pretty flat, whereas this, you just have a little bit more resistance. Not a big deal, again, at $12. 8mm rule. It's a pretty dark gray, definitely darker than I normally like. Now let's go to the paper test. I have to say I was pretty disappointed with the performance. I've used Clairefontaine paper for a really long time, and it's typically one of the most fountain pen friendly papers out there. This, for whatever reason, was not very good with fountain pens. We saw bleeding on kind of a lot of them. So both Pilot parallel pens bleeding, none on the Lummi Vista here, the 1.9mm. The Fountain Pen Revolution Ultraflex, that bled a lot. Omas, yes, this is a flexi pen, that bled. Pilot Metropolitan Stub looks pretty good. I do see a little bit of bleeding on the Lummi 2000, which was a double broad that I turned into an italic. A lot of bleeding on the Pelican M1000 Fine, which is a really wet nib, so that it could be forgiven potentially. Mont Blanc Starwalker M, saw bleeding there, pretty disappointing. Platinum President F looks pretty good. Odo Fude Ball, see bleeding there. Pilot High Tech Point, I see some bleeding. Pentel Energel looks good. Bionic Worker looks good. Secure Jelly Roll looks good. Let's see, everything else looking pretty good. Yeah, I don't actually have any complaints with the face of the Troublemaker pens. So now let's go to the back. And so here we got quite a lot of bleed through. Both Pilot parallel pens, Fountain Pen Revolution, the Omas CS. We definitely did see some spotting here on the Pilot Metropolitan, just very lightly. Lummi 2000, Pelican M1000. Honestly, all the fountain pens really. I mean, even this fine Platinum President, we saw some bleeding. Pretty disappointing. The roller balls, I would say we saw bleeding on all of those. A little bit on some of the felt tip pens like the Schneider Express. The Troublemaker pens all bled through. So pretty disappointing performance for Clairefontaine paper. I'm not sure why this did so poorly. When I initially did this, I thought there was something wrong with the page, but then I tested more pages in this and the performance was really the same. So I would say if you use a fine nib, this notebook can work for you. And it is only $12, so you have to kind of decide if this type of bleeding would bother you. So what are my pros and cons for the Exacompta Journey Notebook? Well, the biggest pro is definitely the price. At $12, this is a very affordable notebook. You get 192 pages of 90 GSM Clairefontaine paper. It is a stitched binding, so it's pretty durable, and you do get a leather cover. So I like all of that for the price. Now, in terms of cons, I was pretty disappointed with the paper performance. I've used Clairefontaine paper a lot, and this was really disappointing. Like, any fountain pen above a fine width bled and feathered on the page. So, it says that it's no bleed through and it's smooth ink friendly paper, which is what I expect from Clairefontaine after using so many of the different notebooks and notepads. That's just not the case here. I don't know why this performed so poorly, but it really did. Now, if you stick with fines and smaller nibs, I think you could be pretty happy with this. And again, $12 price, pretty good. You do get a leather cover. It's not the nicest feeling leather cover. It doesn't smell too much like leather. I mean, I'm sure it's a bonded leather. A pretty small complaint for a notebook that only costs $12, so that's not that big of a deal. Elastic doesn't feel all that nice. And then my other issue is the binding. You get 5 signatures for 192 pages, which is kind of a weird number. So you have like 38 page signatures or something like that. It takes a little bit of effort to get it to lay flat. It will lay flat, and I do think that the binding is durable, but it's not the best. So that's pretty much it though. Do you guys have this notebook? Do you like this notebook? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, and until next time.